What's going on, everybody? Matt, Beer Run Media. One of the many faces that you guys are bound to see. We're making brisket today. So, went down to Costco. I like the Costco briskets because they're all USDA choice grade. They're decently priced, especially for our area. This one was just under $4 a pound, $3.99 a pound. Not cheap, but we also don't do them all the time, so. Tomorrow's the kid's birthday, and after the birthday party, we're having a family gathering at my place. So brisket and beans and rice it is. So without further ado, we're gonna start on this guy. So start off, I'll cut the package open, kind of drain it a little bit, and then we'll get it on the rack and go from there. And yes, my house is just like yours. The dishes need to be done. Yeah, she's good. Not a lot of hard fat. We got a lot of the flaky stuff we'll cut off, but that's good. She's also not very big. She's just under 14 pounds. There we go. Get as much as I can. It's not dropping it. We're getting juices everywhere. What we're going to do first is we're going to take some paper towels. I always like to pat mine dry and get all the stuff off of here that we can.
How much trimming do you think you're going to do on this guy?
It varies because you never know once you get through this first layer what you're going to find. It's probably not going to be very much. The Costco ones, they actually do a pretty good job of pre-trimming them for you. Backside looks pretty good. I got a little bit of the silver skin stuff, but nothing that's gonna affect it. And I'll get my little carving knife now. This little stuff, you don't have to trim this off, but I always do. And actually, most of the time after I trim this, I'm not going to do it this time because I don't have a need for it because I've got plenty of it, but I normally render down all this fat and use it afterwards for general cooking. So that's all fat, right? It's a big old chunk of fat right there.
Oh yeah.
And you can kind of trim to your liking. There's no real wrong way to trim it. A lot of people will trim it to make it look more appealing to the eye as far as the shape goes.
I mean, we're eating it either way.
Yeah. It all comes out the same, you know?
We ain't no competitive cooks over here.
No. I compete with myself.
Yeah.
That's about it. I don't really like cutting on this thing, but that's okay. You can see right here, I got into the meat a little bit. Don't worry about it. You've got a ton of meat on this thing, so I sharpen this knife. I should have did that before I started, but
Oh well.
should happen. That's all right. You're looking for like the hard fat. That's what you really want to get rid of. You can see most of this is already kind of jelly. It's not really hard. This big one, so it's going to grind it right down. This guy right here is just a big old flap of fat right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a bit of meat off of this guy. This piece right here will probably actually cook for the dogs, but we did take off a good chunk of meat there. But also look at how much fat you pulled off of that guy. So 13 pounds, I bet you we've already taken off at least, or 14 pounds, you're probably taking off at least a pound of fat here.
Yeah. That one alone right there.
Yeah. I'm not really good at cutting around corners on these things unless they're like really, not really frozen, but I'm sure a lot of that has to do with my utensils, but I'm actually not going to really touch the fat up here, I don't think. It's a little flaky, but most of this is going to end up rendering down into the meat as you're cooking it. Trim this corner up a little bit right here. So we get down to some hard stuff right there. I think I've used this knife a little bit too much. Time to sharpen it. It is about a year old now.
Yep.
I have not had to sharpen it yet. Let's see. I'm gonna grab a different one that I haven't really used.
Shout out Matt's wife for that knife kit.
I thought it'd probably actually be a little bit easier. It's a little smaller. Oh yeah. This table doesn't really help either, or this cutting it inside of this pan. So the other benefit that you can get from this is you're gonna get your seasoning actually onto the meat more, and it's gonna penetrate a little bit more. So generally, I normally season these the night before. This thing's probably gonna go on in about 12 hours. It's about 3 o'clock right now, so not quite as long as I would normally do. So if I have a little bit less fat and I can get a little bit more seasoning on that meat, I'm a-okay with that. And it looks ugly, but I'm kind of okay with the way that is right there. So a lot of fat that we took off of that.
Oh yeah.
Good amount.
Falling. Fat overboard.
Sure, the wife's gonna be happy to see that on the counter. So today we're using regular old yellow mustard as our binder.
Generally, what we use when we do use a binder.
Yeah, it's
You're not going to taste it.
yeah, you don't taste it at all. Helps everything stick to it.
This is a very traditional Southern binder from what I've
Correct.
read.
Yes.
We use it on our pulled pork. We did that a couple weeks ago. Which I'm sure we'll do again for you guys on the video.
Oh yeah, dude, that was too good to not do again. That was, and it fed us for a few days. Like,
So it was technically our first successful one.
it was the first one I had ever done.
Yeah. It was my second one. First one was a complete fail. This one came out great. I was happy with it. We could have seasoned it more, for sure. So I think, now we know. Want me to do that? Report?
Oh yeah, you can just squirt it on there.
Now we know
A healthy amount.
what adjustments we need to make for next time.
Yeah, the only thing that I could really complain about is I didn't put enough seasoning on it. which I should know better from doing briskets. You have a lot of meat here in your surface area where your seasoning is. It's not that much. So by the time you cut it up and everyone's eating it, you're not eating a lot of seasoning per slice or per serving, I guess would be the way to say that.
Yeah. But it's fine. It was still good.
It was delicious. Fell right apart.
Like you said, we know what adjustments to make for next time. I was happy with the cook. You were happy with the cook. And then, what was it, the week after, we had another pulled pork over at Perry's house. That was the week after, right?
I believe so.
Which was also amazing. There's not a whole lot of like meats. I think the pulled pork was like the last major meat that we needed to do, right?
Yeah, we've done
Well,
a
I guess
metric
if you
we've done a metric ton of ribs and
tri-tip,
tri-tips.
which we're from
This
California, tri-tip's kind of a staple here when it comes to.
Probably my 9th or 10th brisket in the last couple of years.
See, I've never done a brisket myself.
But
I'm also a lot newer to smoking than he is. So.
if this is the kind of the content you're into, which we're gonna have a wide variety of stuff, but this is just one of the things that we enjoy doing. If you're into barbecue stuff, watch Meat Church. I'm gonna be using a couple of his seasonings, but
We swear by
I
Meat Church.
swear he's Matt, you're awesome.
Yeah.
If you ever watch this, but yeah, no, probably one good thing I picked up from watching a lot of his videos is you always want to season with your heavy black pepper first.
Yes.
The reason being, by the time you get this on there or this, it's gonna bounce off and is not as much as the pepper's gonna stick. So you don't got, like I said, you don't got to be afraid with the brisket. With
a lot of meat.
With any large piece of meat, I should say. Always start with your pepper. I'm trying a little bit different this time. I've never put cumin on something, but on brisket, but we're gonna do a little bit of that today. Hit it with the garlic powder. And seasoning, of course, is always whatever you want and what you like. You might not like this. Oh, we might not like it. We'll find out tomorrow.
We do like to experiment when it comes to seasoning.
I do. I mean,
Again, we love Meat Church and we definitely use them, but we'll add stuff to it as well.
yeah, so I'm doing this, and then I'm also going to use 2 of his seasonings on top of this. So the first one's going to be the Gospel barbecue rib. Delicious on pretty much anything beef.
No.
And then just for a little bit of spice, because my wife doesn't like spicy, so I can't make it too spicy. We're gonna, as you can see, I use the crap out of this thing. It's almost gone. But holy voodoo, this thing's good on everything. I've put it on pork, chicken, fish. I enjoy it all. So.
So on the cook overall, what are you thinking? How long? How hot?
So we want to eat around 6 or 7 tomorrow. We'll probably throw it in. So we're going to be cooking on a Pit Boss. We'll transfer between my Pit Boss and Perry's Traeger. Which is Traeger, I'm going to tell you, they do the same thing, but his Traeger, I think it's the older model Timberline.
Yeah, it is.
And it holds
Well,
the
the
heat
last
in.
generation.
Yeah, it's the last generation, but it holds the heat in a lot better.
Yeah.
Than my Pit Boss does, but my Pit Boss still does.
I don't think his is as temperamental to the outside, like
temperature, yeah.
As yours
when
is.
it gets cold, like I've done briskets in the middle of winter, and it gets hard to cook them because can't keep up with the temperature when it's 30 degrees outside or less, which is lucky for us about as cold as it gets here. We'll dip down to the 20s sometime, but we're gonna come right back. So we gotta let this guy sit for about 5 minutes before I flip her over, let everything kind of adhere and soak in, and then we'll be right back and season the other side.
About to give her the old flip.
I'm trying to get the sides before we flip it.
Not the easiest of tasks.
Not the hardest though either. Could be worse.
Yeah.
just seasoning. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's still going to taste good.
Yep.
Now you can see how much it's soaked in if you look at how bright and red that seasoning is versus the stuff that's been sitting on there. Alright, time to get a little bit more mustardy, and actually not before I do that. Hit this little corner. And get some mustard on our hands here. And you're still going to lose some seasoning. It's not going to all stay on there, but the point of letting it sit is to try to get as much to stay as possible. Which, fat side's how we're going to cook it anyway, so it's just going to stay like this once we season it until it goes on the grill. Fired up, baby.
And there's a lot of debate over fat side up and fat side down.
I've done it both ways.
I'm a fan of both.
I am too. It seems like it does make it a little bit more unhealthy, I think, in my mind, because you're just dripping the fat in there, but you're not really eating this to be healthy.
Yeah.
And if you are, you're on the wrong diet.
Yeah.
Pepper.
And now you're just gonna rinse and repeat on the other side.
And then we'll put this guy in our outside fridge or the beer fridge, whatever you guys want to call it. I think the cumin's going to be pretty good on there.
Yeah.
I think so. Which I bought that for salsa and then I didn't use it in salsa, so.
Well, as they say, we're fixing to find out. Or as we say here, we are currently fucking around.
And we are going to find out.
Yeah.
This stuff gets kind of, I think this stuff has like brown sugar in it or something.
Clumps up.
That's the only reason I can think that it clumps up.
Yeah.
It's not like it's in a damp place at all, so. I think that's it. So guys, I think we'll be back when it's nice and dark outside early in the morning and get this thing on the grill. We'll show you guys getting that started and take you guys through our process, which I think is a fairly standard process of cooking briskets. And yeah, see you guys later. Every garage fridge is not complete without stickers.
Absolutely.
We just had to go restock today. We also run the Bearded Drinkers, if you guys haven't seen that channel. This is the dog's cut. Unseasoned, it'll go on the smoker with this thing. There she sits.
A few hours later.
What's up, guys? So it's been on for about 30-ish minutes now. It's 3:18 in the morning. Sorry, so it's been on for 18 minutes. Still rolling steady at 200. So that'll be our first part of the cook. I'm trying to condense this one and do a little bit of a faster cook. I'll normally put on smoke setting at like 180, but I've been kind of having some temp control issues with this guy, so we're gonna roll it at 200, see what happens. So yeah, hopefully 12 hours, so hopefully right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon we'll pull it off and let it rest for a few hours before we start slicing that guy.
See you then.
What's up? It's the same day as you saw this morning. Had a few issues running this thing. We're still not quite the temp, but we're gonna wrap it early.
Look down your paper, huh?
Oh yeah.
What are you doing?
What was that?
What is in that?
It's spritzer, yeah, what's in there?
That's water and apple juice. Nothing fancy.
I'm
I should probably get my gloves up because that's gonna be hot.
Why use that? I just want to get better apple juice. Should put some in there.
There wasn't that much of it left. I didn't want to.
Really?
I know Kayla wants people to try it. So.
Yeah.
Patented barbecue gloves from Walmart. Nice looking bark on there.
Pulling?
Not yet. The brisket is you want to get it as tight as you can. Hold that heat in there.
Now, for those who may not be custom cooking brisket, why you going butcher paper and no oil?
So you can run full. It's all it is personal preference. When you run foil, you steam the meat more. Whereas this is still going to let moisture kind of release from it, and it kind of lets your bark stay barky. It doesn't quite moisten it down and make it pull off so easy. So yeah, it lets it breathe. But that's it. We turned the grill up because we're kind of on a time crunch here for this thing to be done. We got about, it should have come off in about an hour and a half, but it's going to be a little bit later than that. So we'll see you guys when we pull it off and start cutting it. How we doing, guys? We're
Many hours later.
we are 12. We're 15 hours into the strip right now.
How many hours passed?
We're a lot of hours past. We had a lot of technical difficulties with this guy right now. Right here. Sorry. Excuse that. But Pit Boss, love him. Never had an issue with him until today, which go figure. We just made our first video today. But we are at the temperature. We're pulling this girl off of here. You normally want this to sit for about 3 hours. I've done it before where it hasn't set, and I've done it before where it sits 3 hours. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not really much of a difference. So we're gonna let it sit for about an hour. So we're gonna put it right into this ice chest. This is going right on top of her. We're closing that girl, and we'll be back in an hour. Alright, so we started without you guys. I'm sorry, the family's here. We're trying to eat. Everyone's hungry. Cook took a lot longer than we expected. It actually took longer than a lot of our big briskets. This guy was only a 13-pounder. She's pulling apart. It's getting hard to cut thin. Yeah. I don't blame him.
Kayla was looking right at me.
Okay, so we're gonna do it's roughly halfway. We didn't do burnt ends, so we don't have a true half cut here. But that's about halfway there. So let's just see how she
Passes the
That's about as good as a bend as you can get. I can't ask for more of it.
I'm not.
Oh, good. Just don't get cut. All right, it's gonna be good. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Good?
Oh yeah.
Alright. So we normally do burnt ends. The way this thing cooked, we didn't have the time for burnt ends, I guess. We had some pit boss issues. But Ooh, that's a dog treat right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking so hot. This thing's been sitting for over an hour and it's still that hot.
That cumin is interesting.
I hope it does. That's going to add a
It is
certain type of
interesting.
spice that you're not going to know.
It gives it a good backheat. It gives it a really nice back heat.
What do you want?
That was our first time putting cumin on there.
Yeah, ever. It's just it's something that I've used in salsa, and I just
That is
decided
really
it would
good.
probably be good.
Go for it.
I did cumin on this thing. I've never done cumin on one before.
You get that back heat
The
of
cumin
cumin?
is going to add a lot more heat than should be there.
It's in the back. It's in the back of the throat.
Yeah, it is. People aren't going to take a bite of that and say this is hot.
No.
No.
But it's, yeah.
Especially by the time I slice it down the middle, and by the time you slice that middle piece in 5 feet, you're never going to notice that.
Really good, man.
Thank you. Thick. We're getting to the point right here. We're already past the point. This is your fat line right here. If you guys can see this dark line, that's where you divide your point and your flat. That's where normally everything this way on, that's your burnt ends.
That's good.
Oh, I got on my shorts. It's splattered on my shorts, guys. I'm gonna try it yet. It smells so good and I haven't tried it yet.
The real judge is coming.
The kids?
Perry,
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
get some.
Good.
Tell me,
Cumin is
do
it
you
good?
feel that cumin in the back of your throat? Yeah, huh?
That smacks.
Yeah.
Shumax. Alright. There we go. We're cutting her that thick.
We're going for the full. You need to do the bin test?
No, we did. We already
Oh, you
did
already
that.
got the bin test?
Oh, dude,
Okay.
let's do a half bin test here. Right?
You're the
That's a
real
half bin
heat
right
queen.
there. That's a half bin.
Kayla, you're the no heat queen. Try it. No heat queen. It's got a nice back heat. No?
It's got cumin on it.
Yeah.
It's not hot at all.
It's not hot at all. Promise you. Matt. That was good. That was good. That was good. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to tell you. I'll get back to you after I make a plate.